that the bill sponsors put an amendment on this, but to kind of address this a little bit. But I'm just curious if you guys have had conversations with investors who would otherwise want to invest in startup entities, just being investors, not day-to-day operators. To what degree do you think that your inclusion of individuals who own or control at least 25% of the ownership interests in an employer will deter investors, even with the amendment that has said that they have to prove that they had some connection? In my mind, standoff investors are not going to want to be caught up in such things, so they'll find other states and other projects to invest in. And so I'm just wondering if there's been conversations related to any concerns about the impact this will have on investors. So the question is, what impact is this going to have? Okay.
Representative Froelich.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the question, Representative. We have had many, many conversations about this and feel like we've landed in a place where we've thread the needle between deterring investment and holding folks accountable.
Representative Luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm pleased to hear that you've had those conversations. Since I wasn't in any of them, can you give me a broad strokes of what were the concerns, how those conversations and dialogues went?
Representative Froelich.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative. You know, there are 100 of us, and so we generally go into negotiations with the bill sponsors and outside interests, and we do our negotiating in the chamber with the other 99 folks.
Representative Luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm still no closer to understanding what those conversations entailed and what the back and forth was and how it was decided that, in fact, these investors are now comfortable with the idea of being able to invest in this space. I assume that they raised their hands and objected, and I just would like to know how you made them comfortable such that they would be all right with the amendments that you've put on.
Majority Leader Duran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to my colleague, I don't know if we can answer your question precisely. What I do want to say is that after this bill was vetoed last year, almost a year ago, we took all the input from businesses and from different organizations, and when I say stakeholder, I mean they were at the table in these conversations, hence why this bill looks different than it did last year. Is this bill exactly what everybody wanted? It is not. But I'm proud of the work that we've done with the governor's office. I'm proud of the work we've done with the business community. I'm proud of the work we've done with advocates and supporters of this legislation. It was many, many hours of meeting from June of last year to where we are today. So as stated before, this bill is good for workers. At the end of the day, this is good for workers. We need to take this step. It's an important step. It's not a perfect step, but it's important to do. And I want to remind everyone what this bill does. It improves access to justice, which is what we're talking about when we're talking about our most vulnerable workers. It also targets bad actors so that we're not punishing the good employers out there, but also making sure that the bad employers are being held accountable, which is important in any field. Also, public accountability. We heard a lot about that last year in that version of the bill. Also, protecting workers who exercise their right to speak out, because no one should ever be punished for speaking out against an injustice and not getting paid. So with that, members, I ask for a yes vote on this bill.
Representative Luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And while I appreciate what the Majority Leader is saying, it's still not to the point of my question. I'm not challenging the process. I did that earlier to no response. I am now asking about the substance of the conversation. That's very different than how many conversations there were, why, under what context, what impetus. The substance of the conversation related to investors and whether or not we should have any concern about investors no longer investing in Colorado because of the fact that this provision now exists and adds an additional risk to them. I also will point out that a question that was asked by a colleague of mine that I promised to ask up here, just wanting to have a greater understanding of the change in Section 2, in the striking of applicable under the Fair Labor Standards Act of, et cetera, and just the placement of applicable, and what in all that might be entailed in that particular shift. If somebody would be so kind as to explain, I would appreciate it.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1001? Representative Luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If someone wants to come and answer my questions, I'd be happy to hand over the well for that purpose. It seems also that we are striking some protections for the employers. And to the conversation that was had maybe 3 Fridays ago related to this issue of costs, attorneys' costs, reasonable costs, attorneys' fees, it was stated that we needed to be fair to both sides. Now it seems that we no longer need to be fair to both sides. If somebody could please help me understand why in one instance and not in the other. There are often valuable reasons. I just would like to understand the decision. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1001? Representative Luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, seeing as no one is going to actually answer my questions, whether because they don't know the answers or don't want to engage in conversation, I will postpone for now. But to the people of Colorado, it's very concerning to me that we can't actually have a substantive debate.